Okay, so this is part 2, 7.4a, and we're continuing just kind of looking at the problem that we started here. We're solving this equation. So we've determined the left side. I'm going to show you the work though for the left side and the right side. We multiply by the lowest common multiple, which is the product of x minus 1 and 2x minus 3. What I've done here basically with the paint program is I've written the original problem. I show x minus 1 and 2x minus 3 multiplied on the left and the right, and after that what I do is I basically show that yeah, the left is still the same here, but you really want to think about on the right hand side that purple combination of factors is going to distribute. It's going to multiply with each of the things inside the rough looking parentheses I made there. It's going to multiply with the 2, and it's going to multiply with the 3 over 2x minus 3. So on this line, you see a whole bunch of stuff going on there, right? You got that stuff multiplied with 2, plus that stuff multiplied with 3 over 2x minus 3. And you need to really do all of this out because you're not going to see otherwise what you have left until you get all these combinations. Over here, I'll get my little slasher out here. I'm going to make it black. X minus 1 and x minus 1 reduce. 2x minus 3 is going to multiply with 2x. So 2x times 2x is 4x squared. Minus 3 times 2x is minus 6x. Okay, so that's where that comes from on the left-hand side. The right-hand side is more complicated because we've got multiple combinations. And this is probably the trickiest part of this whole process right here. I think a lot of people would have some trouble. How do I multiply this all out? Well, you could multiply the first two out through some type of FOIL method. If you did so, you'd get 2x squared minus 5x plus 3, but there's still a 2 that's multiplied on the outside. So I kind of put that from the right to the left down here. But the key is that it's going to need to multiply through all of these guys after you've done the FOIL. So that's kind of tricky. The other stuff is more like the left-hand side of the equation, where the 2x minus 3 and the 2x minus 3 can reduce, and x minus 1 times 3 is 3x minus 3. So that's where that came from right there. On the next line, I distribute the 2 in, and I end up with 4x squared minus 10x plus 6. And then when I combine the like terms together on the right-hand side here, I end up with 4x squared minus 7x plus 3. Excuse me. Yeah, that's right. 4x squared minus 7x because of minus 10x plus 3x, and 6x minus 3 is positive 3. Okay, so we've got that, and that's what they're asking for on the next stage here. So 4x squared minus 7x plus 3 is what I'm going to type in right here. Okay, so that will satisfy Hawks on that step in the practice mode. And we've already done kind of the remaining steps in the paint mode here. My computer's going a little slow. Taking its good old time. I'll pause it for a sec. Okay, here we go. So we've got this here, and the remaining process, if I go back to the paint mode, this is where we're at, this line third from the bottom. The next step is that we could really say, I'm trying to solve this. Not all of these guys are going to have the second term, the second power term cancel, but in this case, if I were to subtract 4x squared from both sides, those would go away completely, and you'd be left with minus 6x equals minus 7x plus 3. So that's what you got there. If you're solving this, it's looking like it's a linear type problem, so I just have to add 7x to both sides to get the x terms together. That will give you a 1x equals 3, and you don't have to do anything from there. You don't have to multiply or divide by 1, it's just x equals 3. So that should be our final answer to this particular question. Now remember what we did back in, remember what we did in the first step. We looked and said, okay, what were the restrictions? And we determined that 1 and 3 over 2 were the restrictions. There's not a match to our answer, so we're okay. If 3 had been a restriction, like if this were x minus 3 on the bottom, that would have meant that 3 would have been a restriction. I would have had to cancel this answer and say no solution, but it does work. Okay, let's see what else we can get here to work on. These problems kind of chew up some time with the videos trying to explain the whole process, but we should be able to go through a little quicker as I am able to describe these. I think that paint example should help quite a bit. Okay, let's go into the tutor mode. Okay, so we can kind of look at what they kind of talk about. Yeah, the initial step here was to look at restrictions. You have 3 denominators. All of them have x's. So they say, so enter the number of denominators which have x in the box below. 3 of those denominators. And they say set each one equal to 0. So if I said x plus 5, I set that equal to 0. X squared plus 6x plus 5 and x plus 1. And then they say, okay, based on what you've got here, tell us what the restrictions are going to be. Well, I could solve this little guy, and I'd have -5 as a restriction. I could solve this little guy on the third one, and I'd get -1 as a restriction. Notice I'm using commas between these. The middle one here, you say, well, what does that give us? What are we going to have restrictions for there? You have to factor it to figure out what's restricted. They try not to make these problems too complicated in that they're going to give you certain problems that are kind of like repeat factors and things like that. And if you factor this guy, 2 numbers that multiply to give you 5 and add up to 6, 5 and 1, you're going to end up with x plus 5 and x plus 1 for its factors. So they're going to be repeats, meaning we don't have to list anything new. So those will be our restrictions. So we can go on to the next part, which is actually solving. Now remember what happened when I did the problem out with the paint program. We had to figure out the lowest common denominator, and we multiplied both sides by that. Now here, I know that my factors from the restriction part were the same factors that I have here and here, so at most it's still one of each of these individual factors in any denominator. So you need to break this down and you'll see it. So x plus 5 times x plus 1 is our lowest common denominator, or lowest common multiple. You're going to need to multiply both sides by that lowest common multiple. Once again, we're going to run out of time with this, so I'll try to give you a few brief steps, and then we'll get to video 3 to try to finish this particular problem off. Okay, I've typed a few things in here. If I multiply both sides by this lowest common denominator, when it swoops through into the first fraction, the x plus 5's will cancel. I'm going to end up with x squared plus x when I multiply what's left here, x plus 1 times x. When it swoops through with the second distribution, it's going to fully cancel the denominator because x squared plus 6x plus 5 is the same as this stuff. So all that's left is 4x right there. On the right hand side, it's going to cancel the x plus 1, and the x plus 5 times 2 is going to give you 2x plus 10. To be continued, video 3.